Oh, we got a little history to break into today's In Goal Radio, the podcast. Congratulations to Aiden Hill. We'll get into that in just a little bit as we welcome you into this episode brought to you by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com, with the co-founders of In Goal Magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley, and they are buzzing over at The Hockey Shop right now, Woody.
They are. They're always buzzing at the hockey shop. It's busy. And you know what? It's that time of year where most of you have got your gear for the year. But if you don't, if you're still looking for something new set of pads, gloves, sticks, they still got those pro returns from CCM. They've got an option for you in the new gear department. But sometimes it's just about refreshing old gear. That's our segment today. We're going to talk about pro laces, a new option for toe ties that they're carrying in store. But just one of many. When you go over to the accessory section down in the goal department, they've got it all. You want butt ends, don't feel like taping up the butt end of your stick. They got that. They got the goalie block to help you prevent getting stingers up the hand that ride up the paddle in practice. You know, that's where you take 200 shots a day. Might as well protect your hand in it. And I've seen some people using it in games as well. You name it, they've got it. Danglers for you, Darren, multiple options. They've got stuff to clean your gear. They've cleaned, like Jarl Halak, they've got some of the pads to help clean your pads, keep them white.
Nice.
They've got pad skins, you name it. In that section, it's about, I want to say it's about 25 feet long, about shoulder height on me, not Hutch, so that gets a whole extra row. All accessories for all your goaltending equipment. So as always, if you've got a question, make sure you call Cam, check them out at thehockeyshop.com. It's not just about the big pricey new pads, new masks, new everything. It's about the little parts here and there, chin cups, strap kits. They've got a strap kit there now that'll let you show the artwork off on the back of your mask rather than covering it. Just so many different options in the accessories section at thehockeyshop.com. So make sure you check it out, because sometimes, and Cam's honest about this, you call him and talking about foams and chin cups, and he'll tell you. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a subject in the next couple of weeks. When you need to replace a mask, chances are they've got an option for you, maybe something on sale right now, or when you're just okay to replace some parts for it. So make sure you check them out at The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, for all your accessory needs.
And Cecil upstairs doing the repairs. You can phone, talk to them, and mail your stuff in and get it repaired, I assume.
Yeah, kind of like me playing beer league. Just mail it in.
Well done. I like the shot at yourself after you subtly drop a little jab at Hutch about the height. Like that wasn't deserved, Hutch. Stand up for yourself. Oh, you are.
Just carry on. It's all good.
We're having some fun today on In Goal Radio, the podcast. We want to get into the Sense Arena feature interview. Devan Dubnyk. It is 1 hour long, so settle in. But it is a fascinating journey through Devan Dubnyk's career, from just how he got into playing goal to what he's doing now, and everything, like literally everything in between. And this is it's hard to believe it's the first time that he's on this podcast.
Yeah, Do you remember any other times we've maybe chatted with him, Kevin?
Yeah, I thought maybe the editor could edit that out. I can't believe that I forgot we had him on only like 40 episodes ago. That would explain there's a little bit of awkward silence when I introduced him by saying I couldn't believe it had been that long. I remember
it's almost a year, Woody. Give yourself a break.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're having a little trouble with the memory these days.
Too.
And you've had him on pro reads. It's hard to keep that straight, in all honesty.
Well, I do remember like sort of, because, you know, when we talk about this with Devan, like how tough last year, he only saw his family for like 16 days the entire season.
That was a crazy stat.
Because you remember when San Jose, they started the year in Arizona. He lived in a hotel. Yeah. They'd established themselves. They were going to move to San Jose, but then they weren't in San Jose anyways. So I do remember he had a lot of time in hotels. And I do remember like the video sessions we did for the pro reads, but I forgot that ahead of that, we'd actually done a interview for the In Goal Radio podcast. So hopefully I didn't go over too much of the same material. I do know there are a lot of great stories from this one. And speaking of Devan, the one thing you're going to hear from him is that he still wants to play. And speaking of Sense Arena, one of the things he's doing now, just started to try and stay ready to play because he's doing all the workout, is he's giving it a go. He's going to try out Sense Arena and see if that's a good way to sort of keep the eyes and the hands active. We've seen a few injuries around the league. Fortunately for the goalies involved, nothing serious, but talking to him and getting the sense of how eager he is to still get back out there if the right situation presented itself. Like, somebody loses a main guy for a long time, this is certainly an option I'd be looking at.
Veteran presence, a guy that has stepped into difficult situations in the past. You think back to that wild journey in 2013, 2014, when he was Edmonton, Nashville, finished with Montreal, didn't play in Montreal, but was with Hamilton. And then, of course, the last year, and he does walk us through that adventure.
Yeah, and one thing he didn't bring up, and maybe because I forgot to bring it up, but a little birdie told me this one. Like, this is a guy who's like, he talked about how he hadn't missed a lot of games because of injury, but what he didn't talk about in the interview was how much he's played through. And in the bubble, I was told he broke his hand in the playoff bubble in 2020 on his catching glove. And he wasn't even starting. They went with Alex Stalock, and he could have just pulled the chute and left. He had that hand shot up every single day just to be out there for practice for the guys as a target who wasn't getting into games.
Wow.
Had injections put in that hand every single day to get through the bubble. So sometimes I think the reputation is sort of like, just because he is so casual about things and his conversation is just so matter of fact. But there's an intensity there that I don't think gets appreciated enough.
There's so many people looking at their hands right now know that pain of just a stinger in the hand or like a blood vessel burst in the finger and there's the throbbing. Never mind broken. And we're all like stick taps to Devan Dubnyk. Hutch, do you ever feel that?
It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Your GP21?
Yeah. It might even be over my shoulder still. Oh, man. Greatest Christmas present ever was when that thing arrived. Funny now, hey? Like, we feel like you can't... quality players feel like they can't survive half a season with one glove, and that thing been sticking around here since about 1976. So, I felt a lot of stingers in that thing, and there wasn't any such thing as a practice glove back in those days either. You just had what you had.
Put some foam or something on your hand and try and fit it in the glove with that. All kinds of little home remedies for a stinger in your hand. So let's get into some of the stuff that's happened in the league to kick off this season. And then we will slide over to our gear segment with Cam, and we're talking about pro laces today. But Aiden Hill, who had Aiden Hill as the goaltender with the first shutout, and it took a while.
7 days. Thankfully, I was just thankful that he did it before second edition of the podcast of the season. If we'd had to get together again without a shutout in the NHL, like, that would have been great shame brought upon the Union. So thank you, Aiden Hill, for helping us avoid such levels of shame.
Nice performance, too, as he starts his career with the San Jose Sharks, blanking the Montreal Canadiens. We also have Spencer Knight, who started 4-0 last year in the regular season, and then kicked off this season with a victory in his first start. So Spencer Knight starting to climb up the ranks of wins to debut a career.
Well, also a big game, like interstate rival, two-time Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. And so a lot of eyebrows raised when Spencer got the call in that game and when he played so well. And of course, a lot of people looking at that tandem and wondering who's going to ultimately end up being the number one. But your guy, Darren, your preseason prediction for Vezina Trophy, Sergei Bobrovsky, a guy who, has taken a lot of crap over the last 2 years in Florida, off to a really nice start this year. And I saw a quote from Joel Quenneville, and this is one I got to dig into a little bit, because he talked about changes that Robbie Tallis had made with Sergei, extending from everything in terms of preparation and playing, but also right down to his equipment. So we got some digging to do on that front to see what's changed. I'm thinking it might have been something as simple as paddle length and stick. Remember how he used to grip that thing down so low on the stick? So curious to have a closer look at Bobrovsky. He's off to a great start. And instead of all the worrying about who's going to do what in that tandem, let's just look at them as a really good tandem for the Florida Panthers and a team with Stanley Cup aspirations.
That paddle length, that's not a simple adjustment. That's one of the most extreme one-offs and unique styles or equipment choices in the entire National Hockey League. Wouldn't you say, Hutch?
Certainly could be. It's interesting because we were one of those Carey Price days in the summer when we were on with him, he was experimenting with 3 different paddle sizes, each just a half inch in difference. And he could, I mean, he took probably 15, maybe 20 shots with one of them, and that was it. He was done. Okay, no, that's not the size for me. Like, these guys are so precise with everything that they do that, as you say, Darren, if it's a larger shift like Bob would be making, that would be a pretty significant adjustment for them.
That nobody uses a paddle like Sergei Bobrovsky.
I mean, it's small. It's also like the way he shaves it down. Grip. It's not so much the paddle length as it is how he shaves down the shoulder and how low he grips it on there. So, I think we've got something from Chris Dreger on the origins of him experimenting with it and some of the explanations for it. We'll have to put that up at ingolmag.com in the very near future as part of the end of one of his pro rates.
Corey Schneider, New York Islanders, using matching gloves and pads. What's happening? Is the world is the apocalypse upon us?
Oh, Corey, all those years of telling me you're always going to make more money stopping pucks as a mutt, and now all of a sudden you're fashionable. What's going on here? Listen, obviously, I'd say he's wearing True Gear. I'm not surprised that that's finally the company that got him out of Von Pads, because I think, especially since they're no longer using the one-piece core injection molded core that they were using with CCM, it would probably be a lot easier for them to create what Corey likes, which is just I'm not talking about a soft boot flex. I'm talking like mushy. Like, he just wants that thing mushy. And so that was always an issue when they tried to get him in the Lefebvre by CCM. They couldn't get it soft enough without actually creating a clean break at the boot, like the Vons used to have, where the shin piece and the boot piece are 2 actual separate pieces, which used to be sort of why Von Pads tended to sort of shrink down in size a little, right? That shin piece would sort of break in and work its way down the boot a little bit. And I'm not surprised, because of the way True's set up, and then they're no longer using that one piece core, that they'd be able to accomplish that for him. The glove, not a surprise, because he was always in a very unique spec. I think we called it the Schneider spec. Remember, we had Mackenzie Blackwood on talking about using, it wasn't just a 580, it was the Schneider spec 580. And as I understand it, something to do with sort of the way the spots for the fingers were sewn in, just changed the grip a little bit. So there's that. And then I guess I was a little surprised on the blocker, because he'd gone to a Bauer. And the way the pucks come off that Bauer, I don't think anybody can imitate that. But he looks good. It may be all white, but he looks good in one piece. So for the first time in his entire NHL career, Corey Schneider is head to toe matchy-matchy.
So is Jake the only guy that doesn't match? Jake Allen?
We're going to have to take a closer look. Yeah. He's still got the Brian's glove, and I knew he'd never switch out of that one. That's a good question. Now you see homework. You're creating homework projects. Darren, I haven't been in high school in 20 years. Damn you.
This is a few times.
I bet you somebody's listening who'll let us know on Twitter.
Yeah, guarantee about that.
Share it with us.
Hey, I'm watching the games, and it's 6'5", 8'2", 5'3", amazing offense. I'm looking at the box scores and 3-point nights and 4-point nights for players. And then you go over to the goalie numbers, Hutch, and they're good. Where's the disconnect? Because the eye test and the stats page don't mesh.
Well, and don't forget some of the great photos that people have shared on social too, of the defensive breakdowns, where we've got 3-on-0, 4-on-0, 4-on-1, just some incredible stuff. And as you expect at the beginning of a season, that the defensive structure is not in place, you're going to see some lopsided numbers and some crazy breakdowns, and yet. There we've got, is it 9 goaltenders sitting at .950 and above on save percentage right now? Even for an old curmudgeon like me that calls that a team statistic, that doesn't fit, does it? And speaking of, the old bingo card, who had Dustin Tokarski leading the league in goals against average, and Craig Anderson also in the top 10, the Buffalo tandem. It's a strange start to the year. Of course. Small sample sizes. We all know that, but isn't that fun? That's the best part of the season. I love it when your favorite player scores a goal in the first game of the season, and then we can suddenly project them to an 82 goal season. Like, that's the best part of the year. Or how about 2 and we project them to 164? It's I love this time of year for all the crazy stats that come out, but hey, kudos to these guys for playing so well right at the beginning of the season.
The Craig Conroy effect. That's what that is. So 1 year he had like a brilliant first week and was on a crazy pace. And that's one that I remember.
Well, hey, how about all you Leaf fans out there that saw Austin Matthews? What was it, 4 in his first game ever?
Decent debut in the National Hockey League. Tough to live up to that one. He's done it well. Like he's had a nice career, but tough to maintain that pace.
I gotta say too, if you want to know where all the 6-5 games are on the goalie records, you got to just scroll down that save percentage stat a little bit, because
things get rough.
As impressive as the handful are, up around 950, 960 a week into the season, there are a bunch of names that are not going to stay where they are right now. Like,
careful, Woody, goalie union. Careful.
There's some 850s. There's some numbers in the 8 there this year. And hey, like I said, not a goalie union, product of their environment. Goaltending never exists in a vacuum. Those 6-5 games and wide open 3-on-1s and nobody back checking. Like, hello, Montreal Canadiens.
Hello.
Weren't you a defensive team? Like, where's the best? I've never seen so many straight-legged, no-effort back checks in my life, and Jake Allen is bearing the brunt of that behind a team that has given up odd-man rushes like it's the 80s.
Shame on the National Hockey League for not having a preseason this year and not being able to let the players really get settled in before they did. Like there's no real reason for it. Teams could play as many preseason games as they wanted this year, and it's still been kind of sloppy.
Or as few as they want.
Yeah, Carolina. Remember we talked to goalie coaches and goalies over the course of this podcast about drills that weren't exactly great for goalies in practice, like the 3-on-0s, like the 2. Well, now it's come to roost. There's a reason why coaches do those in practice, to get your goalies ready for early on in the season.
Apparently they're kind of useful. Hey, look, let's not forget, with all those preseason games though, how many times did you see a team roll out their full lineup for the beginning of the year? So the fact that the players are rested for the beginning of the season means they really didn't get that time, I don't think, to work on the things they needed to.
If I ran a team, and it's highly doubtful anybody's going to give me the keys to one, I would spend the last 3 preseason games, no matter how many I played, with my full lineup and go and try and bank those points early on when everybody else is having trouble. Let's get into our gear segment, and we do have the Sensorino feature interview with Devan Dubnyk coming up, and a fascinating conversation. But the gear segment this week brought to you by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey, dealing with pro laces and getting into the accessory line, Woody.
Yeah, we talked about all those accessories that they have at thehockeyshop.com and at the Hockey Shop in person. One of the newer ones they've added is pro laces. So you may have seen these online before. There's some things to like about them. I won't give you all the details. We'll let Cam take care of that. But just one of many options that they have there if you want to, go custom, add a different look to your toe ties, to your accessories, something beyond the stock elastic. There are several different options. And now at the Hockey Shop, Pro Laces is among them. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. We're back down in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwiv. Accessory Day, something a little new. Toe ties, a subject we've talked about a lot in terms of stock options, custom options, different options. Cam has a new option, Pro Laces, in-store and online.
Oh, that's what they are. I thought we got a little mixed up on the whole Accessory Day thing. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, I didn't even okay. Folks, you never know what you're going to see when you come down to Goalie Utopia. Cam dressing up in accessories. Just don't ask him to show you his piercings or tattoos.
Which I have zero of.
Let's stick with the stuff you put on your pads as opposed to the stuff that Cam puts on his body, because no one needs to see that. Tell me about Pro Laces and what makes them unique, Cam Matwiv.
So, finally, after caving in a little bit to pressure, we picked these bad boys up. Another further option for bungee toe ties on our wall, as well as soon to be on our website. What do we have? We have both a senior and a junior option in 2 different styles. We do have our standard elastic cord. So we could give to them a little stiffer in the junior models, but they compensate with adding a little bit more length to them. What I do like, this class is designed to, on your current pad, you take out the laces or the bungees that's in there, and this actually screws in to that. So it gives you the hardware with it. So some assembly required, but then you don't have to fiddle around with doing knots or anything like that like you do with some of the other ones. So installation process, fairly straightforward. Again, straightforward bungee in both senior and junior.
You've got the junior there.
Yes, correct.
And the senior obviously has sort of like the lace style over top of the bungee.
And no, not correct. There's senior and junior of this, and then senior and junior of that. That's the Pro Armor is what you see there. So
okay, so you got Pro Armor, and that's just your stock one.
Just your standard bungee lace.
Okay.
Correct. So what happens there with the one that has the lace over top of it, this is called the Pro Armor. So the skate lace adds a little bit more protection in terms of for the bungee against skate cuts and things like that. You know, if people are walking around the change room and somebody happens to step on your bungee, it's always been a bit of an issue. So again, a little bit of extra protection there in both senior and junior as well. Some good give to these guys as well. Again, another great option for you to toss onto your pads.
Okay, so the one question I have is, where does this fit on the scale of that give and that flexibility? And I would, on top of my head, I would probably put that scale from Bauer and Brian's, where there's a lot of give. And at the other end, CCM, I know in some of our testing with their stock one, some people feel like there's not enough elasticity. It's really hard to find that fine line because length affects that. Whether you put a knot in there to give yourself a built-in gap affects that. Like this to me feels like it might lean a little more towards the CCM scale in terms of how much.
Now this is the patented in-goal / hockey shop bungee scale. We're going to call that a name now. And I would agree with you. Again, Bauer and Brian's being kind of more on that elastic side. I would find these actually both fall somewhere in the middle. Even on both of them, they have about the same resistance regardless of the Pro Armor versus the standard bungee right there. I wouldn't say that they're as resistant as for example, the CCM ones that were coming stock, but they don't have as much give as the Bauer or Brian's either. So like I said, they do fall somewhere in the middle. Nice thing is having that little toe class does create a little bit of a natural gap for you already. So there is a bit of an opportunity to, again, still have a little bit more of that gap. You can still weave it through your skate holder, cowling, depending on what skate you have, the same way you would some of the other standard bungees or even laces for that matter, depending on what you're still using. And then just Velcro right up on top on the laces.
Well, and I will say this, I do like the generous nature of the Velcro area because when we talk about that adjustability and flexibility in terms of, being able to have different options and length being different, obviously, this thing is going to pull a lot tighter if you're doing it like this atop your skate versus giving it a little more length by having it a little looser. So that'll affect that as well. So by having a nice big area, and it looks like some nice stitching and seams through there that are going to maintain and not come apart on you, I think you've given yourself at least a little more play as you try and get that set up perfectly for yourself. Now, there's an argument to be made. Toe box on post, good old-fashioned skate laces and a gap, elasticity. If I go to push and that elastic gives, I'm not getting that push. So that's a conversation we can have for another day. But this, for those that like the bungee setup, this looks like a pretty good option. And you can find it, of course, online at thehockeyshop.com. Or if you have any questions, if you come in, you can get in store and check them out in person. Or if you have any questions about putting them on or how they're going to fit and feel, give Cam a shout at
604-589-1899 or 1-800-567-7790. Talk to you then.
We're going to have to put that in like slow-mo voice because he spoke so fast. Hutch, you're on it.
1-800-567-7790.
It's one of the great things about Source for Sports Surrey and the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, is just all those accessories. You heard about the wall, whether it's a Woody size or Hutch size, still pretty good. Hey, one thing about the Goalie Utopia downstairs, I'd love to see put up a GoPro camera and just have it up there and have the wall just focused on the wall. And see how it changes over the course of like a week. Like what pads are up, what gloves are up, what just one of those.
Do a little time lapse after Woody's been in the shop to see the gloves coming off and going back on.
See how it changes, what the inventory turnover is.
You just want me to put up the camera,
Yeah.
do my usual thing. I'll just put it on the glove wall, try on all the gloves, leave them lying around, and let's see how long it takes Cam, poor bugger, to put them all back.
Yeah, you should also sign every glove that you put on. Woody endorsed.
Well,
I'll just do
that's right.
KW, my initials.
Yeah.
Everybody will think it's a National Hockey League approved mitt.
That is awesome. I love that. Somebody that probably has their KW gear right now, but isn't in the National Hockey League is Devan Dubnyk. We know about his career and some of the twists and turns. And last year was just almost as eventful as that crazy year that eventually led to one of the best turnarounds in National Hockey League history when he landed with the Minnesota Wild after finding his stride in Arizona Coyotes. But now he's on the sidelines and he's looking for work, but taking an opportunity to reconnect with his family. And it's all part of our Sense Arena feature interview. Sense Arena continues to serve up some options to get your game ready when you don't have ice available, Hutch.
Sure do. Wasn't it exciting or intriguing to hear that Doobie's going to be working with Sense Arena to help himself get ready for the first opportunity that comes up for him? I wonder, maybe, Kevin, there's a way we could slip him my login information for Sense Arena so that Doobie could...
No, I know where you're going.
Yeah, I want Doobie to step in there for me to be part of the Global Hockey Skills Tour. Sense Arena is running this awesome competition. It takes place over 5 months, October through February, where you jump in there, you get a number of drills throughout the month to practice, and then end of the month, it's competition time and your scores get taken. And they're going to be having a leaderboard that's posted all the time, prizes throughout the 5-month period, each of those months sponsored by a different city around the world. And then finally, it's going to come to a showdown in March for an overall champion. And those lucky people will get an opportunity to go to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I say people because, guys, one of the big changes this year for Sense Arena was the releasing of the players version as well. So I know it's an all goalie audience listening to this, but we also know it happens quite often in the car on the way to rinks, and mom and dad might have been players and not goaltenders. Your account with Sense Arena comes with 2 licenses. So even though little Johnny or little Jilly is practicing on the goalie version, mom and dad can hop on as a player as well. There's a competition for the players. There's a competition for the goaltenders. This is, we all know, is a game-changing tool. And I just think the opportunity to jump in and be part of this competition throughout the hockey season is just, raising it to a whole new level. It's not just a training tool at home. It's something you can get competitive with people all around the world, guys.
And within the in-goal.
Well, we keep threatening that. Yeah,
what-
we keep threatening that.
I'm doing my part.
Are you in? Are you gonna post a score for the competition, Darren?
Yes. And it's terrible, but I'll still post it.
I think I'm going to go the Hutch route here. Now that we've got American Hockey League teams in town, I'm going to see a couple of the guys this weekend coming into town. Maybe I just happen to, when I say to them, hey, you guys want to check this out, do a little demo? Just in case you're interested in trying it yourself, I want to give you that opportunity. Here, put this on. Don't worry that it's login under Woody. Oh, competition? Ignore it. Just go ahead, do your reps. It'll be okay.
If you do that, if you're anywhere near the top, consider the protest filed right now.
Dude, if I'm not at the bottom, if I'm not at the bottom, I cheated.
1,076, Woody. 1,079, Millard. Hutch, 25th.
Yeah, it's only because Maddie's doing it, not me.
Yeah, exactly. And we appreciate his skills. We love his skills. It's just that he is not qualified for this because he's about 40 years too young. So Dubnyk, you connected with him. This is a fun conversation, but it's also part of an update into where he is.
Yeah, a little bit. I'd be honest. We know there were family situations a couple of years ago that forced him to take some time away from the Minnesota Wild. And so when I hadn't seen him sign, I kind of wondered if maybe there was something going on, and kind of, to be honest, didn't reach out for a long time because I didn't want to interrupt anything. When I reached out, he's like, no, just he's looking to play, and the offers weren't there. You'll hear him talk about the family situation, that there weren't any that sort of made sense to him, and that is a priority. But you'll hear that he's very content where he is. You'll hear it in the interview, in his voice, and in the way he talks about his situation right now. But don't get him wrong here. He misses the guys, and he'd still love to be a part of something. if it's the right opportunity and if it's a fit. And I still think that, he's still a guy that could give a team something. You saw that turnaround. He's going to talk a little bit about how he's gone from 0 to 100 before, being off for a long time and then right into action. He's doing the things he needs to do. He's a longtime Adam Francilia client, so he's doing the things he needs to do off the ice to make sure he's ready to play. And like I said, now going to give Sense Arena a try because there aren't any skates he can go to locally. But he now will be able to sort of track some pucks and keep on top of that as well. So I enjoyed the conversation. And then once we got through that, some really fun stories. Like, make sure you stick around. His stories about being 15 in the WHL and line brawls and the ECHL stories when he first got sent down as a rookie. As a first round pick, there are some beauties in here, as well as some great tips and advice about goalie parenting and about being a young goalie, sort of managing different stages and different points of your career, and some depth advice on how to know where to be in your career. So it's loaded. There's a long one, but stick around to the end because it's worth it.
I talked to Derek Englund, a National Hockey League defenseman for Calgary and Pittsburgh and Vegas. He told me an ECHL story yesterday that I couldn't believe about tryouts. And then I hear this Devan Dubnyk tale about camp. And they weren't at the same camp, but equally bizarre, cool. Never would believe it if it wasn't those two guys telling the story. So yeah, you got to stick around for that. It's the feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena VR with Devan Dubnyk, 253 wins in the National Hockey League, and guest for the second time on In Goal Radio, the podcast.
Really happy to be joined on the In Goal Radio podcast by Devan Dubnyk. Doobie, I can't believe we're 140 episodes deep here. And given all the conversations that you and I have had over the years, how have we not had you on as a guest? And I guess one of the things in terms of it's been far too long, but also just reached out because I wanted to catch up. What's going on? Because I kind of thought we'd see you playing by now. Are you still looking to play? What's where are you at right now?
Yeah, just hanging in Minnesota right now with the family, and boys are back in school. Certainly expected to be playing this year, but not how it's shooken out so far. Yeah, just kind of enjoying time with the kids and the family. Obviously, last year was tough, so getting some extra time here with the kids and my wife is certainly not a bad thing, but especially once training camps and the season got going, definitely got starting to get the itch a little bit. So, it's the way it is. I understand how the game goes, but not shutting the door on it just yet. Just kind of staying in shape and keeping eyes and ears open, and we'll see what happens. Good either way, to be honest. But once I started seeing the hockey on TV, it certainly made me miss the boys and miss being in there.
12 seasons in the National Hockey League. You mentioned I know last year was tough, between San Jose and Colorado, and the fact the Sharks started in Arizona because they couldn't play in their own building and all the protocols and all those things. You barely saw your family at all. Was that a factor in sort of the decision this year, or will be a factor if opportunities present themselves in terms of being able to stay close to them as well?
I think it has to be. I don't even know if I could have done last year. Talking to the guys in Colorado when I was there, some of the guys are saying, the guys with kids, there wasn't a ton of guys with kids there, but a couple guys that had them kind of said, I don't even know how you did this. And I said, I don't, to be honest, if you would have told me before I went that I was going to see my wife and my kids for 16 days total from December 26th to June 16th or whatever it was, I don't know if I would have said yes. So it just kind of played out the way it did. They fully planned on coming to San Jose. We had schools lined up for the kids. We rented a house there, fit for everybody. And then, we started camp in Arizona, started 12 of our first 14 on the road. Didn't really have a definite time frame going back to San Jose. So by the time we went back, we were into February. And at that point, being a shortened season, it was, we talked for a long time about, at this point, do we pull the kids out of school and drag them here for, it's pretty disruptive for them, especially with the condensed schedule and how much we were playing. And we chose not to. And they made a couple trips to San Jose, and then I got traded to Colorado. And we had a trip fully planned, ready to go, because I mean, with how good that team was, I thought we were going the long road. So we had a trip planned for the family there that we had to cancel because unfortunately we lost out. But it was tough. So I don't know. I said to my wife, I'm not doing that again. So I don't think we have to. I think things have changed, and I think there's a lot of opportunities that could come up that wouldn't necessarily be that way. But I can tell you for certain that I would not do that again.
Like you said, things are different now. Those types of opportunities would be different, like in terms of the conditions you'd be playing in. So staying in shape, kept focusing and working on your game this summer. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, obviously haven't been skating a ton at all. Since everybody beetled off to camp, there's not really much skating to be had. Just working out and off ice and staying in shape, and to be completely honest, enjoying some pretty incredible weather in October in Minnesota. So I've been getting on the golf course as much as I can. I don't get an opportunity to enjoy fall golf. This is my first year, and since I started playing pro, to enjoy fall golf. So certainly enjoyed that. But yeah, just working out off ice. You don't forget how to play the game. So I'm not concerned about hopping on the ice if need be and getting back in the mix. I mean, you essentially do that every summer. It doesn't take long for it to come back. So definitely not worried about the on ice stuff as much being off, and just making sure I'm still staying in shape and moving, and just in case. But we'll see.
I was going to say, so what is the focus? And there's probably some things that young kids could take out of this. There's been a lot of people, and there probably are still some people out there that can't play, kids that haven't been able to get back into the regular rhythm of things just because of how strange the past 2 years have been. What is the focus off the ice for you to sort of try and maintain that level of fitness? How do you do that? How do you sort of stay ready to play when you're not able to get on the ice or don't have the opportunities to get on the ice?
Well, I mean, I'm certainly not, not in there doing crazy stuff that you do, ramping up for a camp. But, being cardio-wise never been an issue for me. So it's just, especially getting older and being a goalie, one thing you're always concentrating on is just keeping the mobility, keeping the body moving. I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, to have been healthy and mobile without injury throughout my career. So that's kind of just staying on that track of keeping the hips strong and mobile, stretching through strength through mobility, and just making sure that kind of continuing on that route. It's I've never been a super flexible guy, but I've been, like I said, fortunately healthy. So that's kind of the one thing you can control and stay focused on. And like I said, it's kind of all you can do right now. I'm not going to sit there and stare at the roof, going to sleep at night and worry about it. And I'm not going to, I'm enjoying the time with the kids, but obviously you just want to be prepared if an opportunity shows up.
Well, I was going to say, it's not like you haven't done this before in terms of long stretches, go out and play and have success. I think back to, I think during the lockout year, and you took an invitation to the Spengler Cup. Like, how long had you been off the ice at that point? And you go out there against a whole bunch of NHLers in that tournament and come away with a gold medal.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for sure, because I remember going into the tournament. I played it when I was 20. I got an invite when I was 20 years old. Funny story, because it's essentially how it was the first time my wife and I got to really got to know each other, because I was a 20-year-old kid and asked my girlfriend at the time if she'd go to Switzerland with me for Christmas, which was a tricky question to ask her mom.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I hadn't known her for very long. She said sure, and we went along, and I mean, it was the coolest experience. I mean, Spengler Cup, it obviously gets no coverage here, which, I mean, it gets a little bit of coverage, but time zones and whatnot. One of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my life, and I just remember being, you know, when the lockout was going on, and I believe it was Brad Pascal at the time was with Calgary now. He had called me and kind of mentioned that possibility of me going, and I just was like, it just got so excited because it was just Davos is just the coolest place in the world, middle of the mountains in Switzerland. I mean, I can't even describe it. It's just such an amazing place and experience and tournament. And to get this opportunity again, I was pretty excited. Unfortunately, my wife at the time was pregnant, and so she wasn't feeling very good. So my brother, they said that they wanted to invite me to go, and I wasn't about to turn it down. So my brother came with me, which is again was a once in a lifetime experience for my brother to be able to come. And so we flew over to Switzerland. I hadn't played a game since May. I want to say May 2nd at the World Championships, and it might have been against like Kazakhstan or something too. It wasn't. I certainly hadn't seen a lot of shots in that game.
It was an 8-0 shutout. I just looked it up as you were talking.
There you go. I got the goalie curse. I could probably So yeah, it was it'd been a while, and I went over with no expectations. I was just happy to be there, to go through the experience, to be able to bring my brother there. I was super excited, having been through it before, and it was funny because coach said to me, we played the first game. Jonathan Bernier was the other goalie there, and he'd been playing, I think, in Div 2 league in Germany, because it was tricky over there with the import rules. You know, not a lot of teams were looking to bring import goalies in because everybody kind of assumed the lockout was going to end partway through the year, so they didn't want to be bringing import cards on goalies. So Bernier had been over there, but he'd been playing games. So they kind of told me that they'd slated him as the starter because he'd been playing, and I said, look, all good. Short tournament. I think it's a 4-game tournament if you win and go to the final. So I was like, I got no expectations. I'm happy to go with my brother. It's going to be a great experience. So we ended up losing the first game in overtime, and the coach asked me if I would like to play the second game against Davos, and I said sure. And it was funny because he's like, I just want you to know, like, they got some big boys. You know, they got Joe Thornton and Patrick Kane. I think Louis Erickson was there. You know, you think you can do this? And I was like, Coach, I play against these guys. I played against them for a while, but remember my last game was at the World Championship. So yes, I play against these guys. So yes, okay, I'll figure it out. I realize it's been a long time. I'll figure it out. And that's the thing. It's a little bit uncomfortable for 5 or 10 minutes, but you play that many games and it doesn't take long. You get hit by a few pucks and you take a second to look around some bodies and you're like, oh, I remember how to do this. And
like riding a bike.
Yeah, it really doesn't take long. So, that part of it I'm not concerned about. And again, I'm not concerned at all, really. I'm in a good place. I'm happy. I'd love to play, but I'm enjoying the time with the family, and it's all good. I like texting with the guys I used to play with and seeing how they're doing, kind of where we're at.
Well, hey, so like on that note in terms of being able to, come in cold and after a long time off, and it is like riding a bike. And do you think like your style of play, the way you play the game, lends itself to that maybe more so than a guy? Not that the like we're not in the Martin Brodeur era. Nobody's coming 4 feet out of their crease and retreating with the play like they used to. But
right.
you play a little more stationary, a little deeper, a little more point to point. Do you think that lends itself to, sort of getting back up to speed really quick compared to, say, maybe a guy who plays a lot of backwards flow and rhythm and timing reliant?
Potentially, maybe. I couldn't tell you one where you'd have to ask a guy who plays the other way, because I've only played this way. So, maybe. Timing is everything, obviously, when you're playing. So, But I mean, some of these guys are so talented. I don't, if it can come back for me, it can come back for them as well. But even on that note, just thinking, even this past year, how messed up it was. I mean, I got to Colorado and played 2 games, and then came back, and Gruby was out. He had tested positive for COVID, so he was out. So I thought I was going to. We had 7 games in line that I was going to get to start, and then we ended up getting shut down. We were shut down for 7 straight days, so we weren't even skating. Like, we were just off the ice for 7 straight days, and then got on a plane and we practiced, got on a plane and went to St. Louis and played the next day after 7 days off the ice, and we won the game. It's just like I said, it's one of those things you don't forget how to do it. It's just making sure that your body is comfortable with moving around, and your brain's not going to forget what's going on.
Well, okay. So speaking of not forgetting how to do it, I want to rewind this a little bit and get a little bit of the backstory for our audience. How'd you start? Like, where the desire to do it, where did that come from for Devan Dubnyk? How'd you become a goaltender?
So it's funny. My dad played goal up into junior A, I believe, in Alberta, and he played for Crow's Nest Pass, Red Devils, and I believe was his highest team that he played on. But that was never my motivation. I mean, I loved that he played. I thought it was super cool. We had the fiberglass mats, and we were playing street hockey, and we had his old brown leather pads or horsehair pads or whatever they were, and like he had all his old gear that we'd wear in street hockey. And I thought it was cool, but that was never my motivation. For whatever reason, I couldn't really tell you. I had a buddy that I was really close with that played a lot of goalie on the team that I was in the one season that I was just good friends with, and I thought it was cool that he was a good little goalie, and I wanted to try it. Out of nowhere, I just told my dad one summer that I wanted to be a goalie next year, and he looked at me and said, "Not a chance." And so I worked on him for a while, for a long while, actually. He was not having it.
How old would you have been then?
I would have been like, 8 or 9. I'd have to confirm with him, but it would have been around the 8 or 9, because I want to say I was 10 when I started like full time being a goalie.
Okay, so it took you a couple of years of working on him.
I think it was. No, I think it must have been 9. Because I think it was my first full time year was 10, but it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, so I worked on him, and he said, "Fine, we'll go half and half." Worked on him some more, and he said, "Okay, we'll go 3 out of every 4." So that was what we agreed on. And I ended up playing every single game that year except for 1.
Do you remember?
I was terrible when I started.
Okay.
And talking to my dad, he said the reason he let me keep going was I improved very quickly. When I first got in there, like I said, I don't know why I wanted to play. I don't know if I liked the equipment or what it was, but I mean, when I first started, I was terrible, and he was not overly excited, obviously, that I was hell bent on playing goal when I looked like that in there. But he said, over 2, 3, 4 months, the improvement was exponential. So he let me keep going, and I kind of took off and never looked back. I just loved it. I loved everything about it. Loved the equipment, the math. I mean, it's a lot of kids are fascinated with the gear and stuff, and that was certainly one of those kids. But I was fortunate to fall in love with it and then be able to have my dad. I mean, my dad coached me throughout my whole minor hockey. And we always joke about when, the crossing over point of when I began to know more about goaltending than he did, which was probably a little bit before he let it go. But it was, it was just a very cool experience to be able to have him coach me and be able to show me things. We laugh about, God, we were doing skate save drills when I was 10 or 11 years old. We were practicing doing skate save. Some of the old VHS tapes that we watched are hilarious. Thinking back on them, some of the stuff they were showing. But yeah, just fell in love with it and took off, and never, it was cool. I always tell the story. I never really realized, this, not to sound cocky, but never really realized how good I was until I got drafted to the WHL, because I didn't, I think I was the second goalie taken, maybe first or second goalie in the WHL draft. And I remember my dad, I was so young. I mean, you're 14 years old. And I looked at I was in Calgary and the Hitmen were there. And I looked at those guys like NHL players. They're out there, big boys. They got the half visors on. I've been to Calgary Hitmen games. And my dad took me for a walk the one day. We were walking out, and he kind of explained to me that there's a draft coming up. This was probably 2 weeks before, maybe a month before. And he explained to me that there's a draft coming up and there's a chance that I'm going to get taken in this WHL draft. And I was like mind blown. I'm like, WHL draft? Are you serious? Like, I'm a kid. These guys are men. And I thought it was crazy that, teams would be picking me at that age, excuse me, for the WHL, which I almost looked at as like the NHL. And then, sure enough, a couple weeks later, I started getting calls and doing interviews with teams. And then again, still, I don't know if my parents knew and they were not telling me, or if they didn't know either. But sure enough, I'll never forget this. The WHL draft was on a school day, and I was at high jump practice after school at my junior high school. And which the only reason I was good at high jump is because I was tall. So I had an early advantage to get over the bar, and that was about it, because I've never been a real jumper. And I remember my mom picking me up from school in a minivan, and there was a homemade printer paper sign on the windshield that said "Go Blazers, go." When I opened the door, and I didn't even know who the Blazers were, to be honest. I remember interviewing with Kamloops. I didn't like put two and two together, but I mean, that was the first time I ever knew I was like good, outside of my community. I knew I was, one of the best goalie in my community, but that was pretty much it until that point.
Is there a benefit there, like looking back on it, to sort of having that naivety or that little bit of ignorance to what everyone else was looking for? Like, I imagine you were just out there playing. Like we hear kids, for sure thinking about the pressures of the Bantam draft and where am I going to go, and what scouts at what game. It sounds like you were kind of happily oblivious to it all.
I was very happily oblivious to it. I mean, I knew it was there, but not to the extent that it probably was. And, unfortunately now it's never going to happen. The way that the world is, and, you get social media and everything, obviously. There's no way around it. The pressure is, there's more pressure because, everybody knows everything, and everything's reported in real time, instantaneously. And, you're never going to get that. And I don't know. I mean, I always loved talking to my dad about that, especially with my kids growing up. Talking to him about, because my dad was hard on me, but he was so fair, and I always look back on that and just appreciate that he pushed me very hard, but he was very fair. And I always ask him, how do you know? How do you know what's too much, what's right? And he kind of always says to me, you don't really. You just do it. And, you got to make sure that that they're having fun, but you got to push them at the same time, but not too much. You can't push them to the point where they don't want to play anymore.
Right. And especially with as much hockey as they can play nowadays at a young age, you can hit that point probably a lot easier. I was going to ask you what the car rides were like with your dad. We had Brian DeCord on recently. He's written a book about being a goaltending parent, specifically with his son Joey playing in the NHL and his other son Alex playing NCAA. Like, what were your car rides like home after a game with your dad, who was your goalie coach and your coach?
Oh, I think my dad's probably going to be mad at me for this. Maybe not. He might laugh at it, but again, very fair. So my dad, the biggest thing with my dad was, as long as I worked hard, he'd never be mad at me for anything, any goals that went in. He'd never be mad at me for getting scored on. The only thing that he would ever get mad at me is if I was being lazy. If I wasn't playing with intensity, and if I was being lazy. That's the only thing he'd get mad at me for. I could let in 10. If I was working, he was good. And I'll never forget. This is the one that he'll probably get mad at me for, but keep in mind the arena was very close to my house, so this is going to sound worse than it was. But we had a game, and again, I probably had 6 neighbors that were at this game, so keep that in mind. This was going to sound worse than it was, but we had a game, and I was being pretty lazy in the game. Couldn't tell you why. It was a long time ago. I wasn't working super hard, and I let in a real crappy goal. Tie the game. We ended up tying the game 3-3, and it was like a point shot, went off the back wall, and I was slow getting up, and it went off the back of my leg and in the net. I was being lazy, and so I come out. So I go in, and I'm like, I'm kind of pissed off, but again, I don't know what kind of mood I was in for whatever reason, but I wasn't that pissed off. We tied the game, whatever, and I come out into the lobby. And I'm looking around, nobody's there. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like he's always there. And I'm looking around, and one of my buddy's dads comes up and says, "Hey, you're gonna hop in with us. Your dad said that you can find your own ride home." So I got to get a ride home with my buddy. She just left.
Oh, I thought he might have made you walk.
I could have. It wasn't that far away, but just walked into the lobby and nobody was there. And I remember my dad's buddy was kind of like a little bit awkward about it. Hey, you ride with us. Your dad just left and said you can find your own ride home.
What was that conversation like when you got home?
Oh, I don't know if we had a conversation for a day or so after I got home.
But did you know right away? Like you said you knew exactly why.
Oh, I knew exactly what it was. That's the thing. He was very fair. So he never did anything like that unless, it wasn't, I figured it out real quick. And I remember too, when I was kind of getting into junior high school and starting to hang out with girls, and obviously a lot of different distractions start to show up. And I remember one night, this is well before cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 19, so I ended up staying out, and we were still in the neighborhood, so we weren't far away. But I mean, I didn't think it was a big deal then, but now that I have kids, I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. So, we were hanging out with a group of us, and a couple blocks away, and we were well past when we were supposed to be home. Well, back then there's no cell phones, there's no nothing. Like your kid's gone. So I got home probably a solid hour after I was supposed to be home. And I get home, and my mom was pissed. And she's like, your dad's out looking for you right now. I'm like, well, why would you be doing that? Like, well, you're supposed to be home an hour ago. Like, oh, okay, fair enough, yeah. Pitch black outside. Probably a little worried about me. And she goes, I suggest you go to bed before he gets home. I'm like, sounds good. So I go to bed, and I had a summer hockey team tryout the next day. And this is when the only way I knew my dad was like really pissed at me is my mom came in the morning when it was time to get up and go. And she said, your dad's not taking you to tryouts today. I'm going to drive you. And that was like, holy crap, I screwed up. It was, but
you knew.
Never did that again. That was like that moment. I was like, wow. That was like, I really messed up because it took a lot for that to happen. And then we laugh now talking to my parents about that because we talk about that time. And my poor mom had to just beg him to not take me to send the message. And he hated it. He wanted to take me so bad, even though he was mad at me, but he just wanted to take me so bad. And she was like, you got to do this so that he knows. And it just killed him to not take me. But it worked. Because I knew when he didn't drive me to that tryout, I was like, I didn't even know what to think. Thought the world was over.
World would have changed for you, would have expanded big time. You talk about not even knowing much about Kamloops as a hockey team. Boom, you're a young guy and you're playing in the WHL. What was that transition like? And when did you get into the first time where you're working with somebody else as your goalie coach and as opposed to your dad? What was that process like? Was that the first time?
Well, I hate to throw anyone under the bus, but there were no goalie coaches in Kamloops when I came in there. So
okay, so and you know what? Back then, I was gonna say back then they were there. Coaches. Yeah, there was hardly any. They were just starting in the NHL. There were a lot of teams still didn't have them. Most of them were part-time, if any. Yeah.
Yeah, we did not have a goalie coach in Kamloops when I came in. So, it's fun though. Like my dad, like I said, at that point, we'd gotten past the point where he recognized that, I knew more about the position than he did. But he's still a huge support for me. And also still, a lot of things that he taught me didn't necessarily have to do with goaltending. Like I said, with, he taught me angles, taught me, playing out of my crease, which obviously as I got older pulled back. But when I was a younger kid, I played a lot further out. Just work ethic and intensity, and those are things that he can continue to teach me. It has nothing to do with goaltending. Work. And so he was always there for me. My first WHL experience, they had an injury, so I got called up. I flew to Portland, and that game happened to be that once in a while they play in the Rose Garden, which is where the Trailblazers play.
Yep.
And then a lot of times they'd play in the old, I'm not sure what the building's called, because I actually was lucky my entire career. I think I only played in the old building once my whole career. My first game I got called up for, fly in day of, come in, pop in this dressing room with a bunch of grown men. As a 15-year-old, I was like 6'4", 150 pounds. And get dressed and go out. And we're in the Rose Garden. There's like 16,000 people there. And I'm like, I wasn't even playing the game, but I was just like, what planet am I on right now? So we play there. I think we played maybe Seattle, and then I was out. And then like a month later, get a call. Goalie got hurt. I think it was a high ankle sprain, actually. Davis Parley was the goalie's name. He was a 20-year-old. High ankle sprain, out for a long time. So I come in. Now, looking back on this as an organization, probably not the best position to put a 15-year-old goalie in, but I fly in from Calgary. We're playing in Vancouver. I think it was the Vancouver Giants' first season that year. Get into Vancouver, get to the game late, and they tell me that I'm playing in the game. I'm starting. I'm like late. Like I'm like pulling my bags into the Pacific Coliseum while guys are getting dressed for warm-up after getting off a plane. 15-year-old. So I wheel in, get dressed, get absolutely rinsed. I think we lost like 7-3. And I'm like, I was
shell shock.
In no shape or form was I ready to play at that level, coming from Bantam AAA in Calgary. And this is one of my favorite stories too about that game. So right in the first period, one thing, my dad played in the era where guys, a lot of slashing, a lot of fighting, a lot of stuff going on. So he used to always tell me, someone stands in front of you, give it to him with the stick. I was always good at that. So I remember the first period, guy standing in front of me. So I bury him in the back of the leg with my stick. This guy turns around and he's got a full beard, grown man. 20-year-old guy, full beard, grown man. And he goes, am I allowed to swear on this podcast? I'm not sure.
Well, we might have to beep
I'll
it out.
keep
We are family show.
I'll keep it PG. I'll keep
Okay.
it PG. He goes, if you touch me again, I will kill you. And I was like, yes, sir. Apologize. Won't happen again. And he skated away. And I was like white as a ghost. So anyway, we get beat up in this game 7-3. Anyway, cut me off also if we need to shorten this up. But
No, this is good. This is good. I'm loving this one.
So and this is the best part too is my head coach, the Kamloops at this time, is Dean Evison,
Currently the Minnesota Wild coach.
currently the coach of the Wild. So we get on the bus, and I give Dino a hard time about this, or I did when he was a couple years ago, and we get on the bus, and I'm a 15-year-old kid. I'm used to riding home with my dad. And in junior, you get beat up, you get on the bus and you don't talk. Everyone puts their head down, and the bus is dark and quiet, and no one speaks because you just got beat up on. Well, I'm sitting there like I'm in the minivan with my dad on the way home, and I'm sitting beside the other goalie, and I'm talking about the game. I'm like, oh man, I didn't see that pass coming. It was a good move on the breakaway. I was just talking like I'm riding home with my dad, and he's kind of sitting there. He's like, shh, man, shh, quiet, dude, quiet. And all of a sudden, Dino is 2 seats in front, and he didn't know it was me. But he turns around, and again, I'll leave the expletives out of it, but he goes, would you shut up? And he was like 2 seats in front of me. Dino's got a big voice on him, too, so I quieted up pretty quick. Next night, we go to Seattle. I'm ready to quit playing goal at this point. Like, I'm like, I'm never going to be able to play in this league. Too good. Can't do it. Sitting on the bench, 0-0 halfway through the game. Boom, line brawl breaks out. Everyone's fighting. Again, I'm sitting there on the bench like, what planet am I on? What is happening out here? Every single player on the ice is fighting. And then the goalies go. And the goalies meet at center ice and they fight. And I'm just like, this is awesome. What is happening right now? There's every single piece of equipment's on the ice. Everybody's fighting. I don't know what's going on. Never seen this in my life before. I'm watching this. So things end. Keep in mind at this point, I'm like ready to quit playing goal because I don't think I'm good enough for this league. And everyone's cleaning everything up. And everyone's kind of off the ice. And I'm sitting there, still completely clueless, looking around like, wow, that was really cool.
You're in.
Completely oblivious to the fact that I have to play at this point.
Yeah.
Like I did not clue in that because the goalies fought that I'm playing. So I'm sitting there looking around. Wow, that was really neat. Like, couldn't believe everybody fought. That was really cool. And then everybody's off the ice. We still had no goalie. And I'll never forget Dino looking down at the bench. Gilbert, what are you doing? Get on the ice. And then all of a sudden it was like all of the blood out of my face. Oh, God. I got to go back in there again. And it's 0-0. So, I mean, fortunately, I think we went up 5-0 before I touched the puck more than 3 times. So that was my first win in the WHL was the line brawl. I hopped in halfway through the second.
Wow. Wow. 5 years later in the WHL, drafted in the first round by the Edmonton Oilers, starting the minors in the AHL. Like, what was like, I'm covering a big period of time here, Devin, but like throughout that, like, how'd you go?
Yeah, because I'm old. That's why you're covering a big period.
Well, okay, we've only got so many hours on this podcast, right? Now that you're 35, hey, trust me, man, at 48, it doesn't get better. So what, like, just walk me through the development process though, from that 15-year-old kid who's like, I can't play in this league, and what world am I on, to, first round draft pick. Like, what changed other than experience? Were there technical elements? Was it just getting to learn the league and the game and comfort level? What was that learning curve, and what was your growth curve like, and what were some of the biggest keys to it?
I don't think a ton of technical stuff came until I actually got to the NHL. Actually working, well, I shouldn't say that. Pete Peters was the goalie coach for the Oilers, and he taught me some like fundamentals that I've literally taken with me for my entire career. So I thank him for that, and it was very basic. It was just the idea of your angles and allowing players to basically move ahead of you. You know, let the puck move ahead and then move, and don't be ahead of the puck, because as soon as you get ahead, they fire back. You're screwed. Which is a huge. You know, obviously it's more complicated than that, but Pete Peters he just hammered that into me, and it was such a huge part of my career and the way that I played. But technically wise, I didn't get into really anything until I was with Freddie Shabbat in Edmonton, who's with Minnesota now.
Yep.
Like I said, small world.
Yeah.
It was funny. You know, I was always confident. You know, I played one more game. You can only play 5 games in the WHL. So I played one more game in Red Deer, and, you know, things were progressing in the right direction. It was good. And then going in as a 16-year-old, I knew I was going to be there. And actually, I think I played 27 games or something like that as a 16-year-old, which was
26, yeah.
For being a 16-year-old. It was quite a few games. And it was like, I was confident. Again, it was kind of like I didn't really know. And then going into my 17-year-old year, that's when you start to hear, you start to hear about the NHL draft, and you're a high pick and blah, blah, blah. And then, you have the under 18s, playing a couple under 18s, and one went not very good, one went very good. And, then you get drafted, and you go through all these things, right? It's like you get drafted and you think you made it. Like, I went 14th overall. That's not a small feat. It's pretty cool. Big deal. First round, 14th overall. I'm like, I remember thinking, I'm playing like 14th overall. I'm going to play for sure. Problem. And then you kind of go along, and there's a certain, being a little bit naive to how hard it is to get there was a good thing. Everybody should be. But then, it's crazy when you look back on the development side of it. My first year. So when I was 20, when I knew I was going to play pro, Edmonton didn't have an American League team, and so it was funny again because I had a fantastic camp. It was my best camp I'd had. I guess I've only had a couple camps, but it was a good one. Got to play a couple preseason games, and Edmonton was kind of looking for, goaltending's tricky. They were sharing teams. They were with Wilkes-Barre, and they were sharing a little bit with Iowa as well, which was Dallas at the time. So easier to share players, but when they were looking to place me somewhere, it's like everybody has like a stud goalie prospect. So they were kind of thinking like, do we want to plug this guy behind on someone else's team behind their prospect? Because everyone's got a good third guy that's a prospect. Or do we put him in the coast? So they hadn't decided. They'd kind of been talking. So I actually stayed with the team all the way through preseason up until like 2 days before the season started. I was with Edmonton as a 20-year-old. And the funny thing is so when they decided they were going to send me to Stockton to play in the coast, well, East Coast League camp didn't start for like 3 weeks after that because they start late. So I went from like this super intense, feeling awesome about myself, playing NHL preseason games. I went home to my house in Calgary and lived with my parents for 3 weeks doing nothing. And then just flew to Stockton, California, and hopped into camp. It was like a crazy.
Seems a little less than ideal.
Yeah, I literally went home and hung out with all my friends for 3 weeks doing nothing. I was like training with my trainer there.
Right.
But like you go for a couple hours in the morning, and then like I was just hanging out.
Well, okay, so I was just going to say, but then you got to Stockton and posted a 921. So another example of if the right opportunity comes around this season, you can go from 0 to 100 like that.
Yeah, and I mean, even I don't know if it's changed, but it was like, I mean, even the Stockton training camp, like it was their second year in the league, and it was essentially an open camp. So if you had played like any sort of competitive hockey, you were like allowed to show up for this training camp. So again, I went from playing. Actually, the last preseason game was against Calgary in Calgary, and I just stayed there. I went from playing against Calgary Flames to being in an ECHL camp with basically anybody that felt like trying out.
Come one, come all.
So it was a unique experience. I had a kid there. I think he played at University of California, which obviously is, I don't believe. I hope I don't offend anybody. I don't think is a big hockey program.
I think you're safe. I think you're safe, especially in 2000 or 2006.
Yeah, I was sick. So he says to me, he goes, "Hey, you want to pop over after practice? I'll fire some pucks on you." So I'm, like, in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He wants to run some drills. I'd gladly hop in there and let him, do what he wants to do, be the goalie. And so he lines up 10 pucks top of the circle in the slot. And I'm like, okay. So I get in there and he shoots 10 pucks on me. And he goes, "All right, man, thank you. Cool. I just want to tell my buddies I shot on you." And I was like, what? Like, we're in the same training camp, dude. Are you serious? No, like, dead serious. "All right, cool. Thanks, man. I just want to tell my buddies I shot on you."
I did not see that one coming. I didn't know where that one was going, but I didn't see that one coming. Oh,
no,
hey, let me.
I didn't see that one coming either.
I'm guessing not. Let me ask you one. Like, through all this, because we're in an era now where teams chase size in net, almost to the point where it's funny you talk about Jonathan Bernier, right? Like, he's had a pretty darn good career, and we've had this conversation with him. I don't even think he gets drafted now at 5'11". But back then they weren't necessarily not the way they are now. Like, were there times along your path where you had to learn yourself to play with your size, and how to manage that? And were there any times where anybody brought it up to you as potentially a negative?
I wouldn't say necessarily negative, but I think that, the biggest thing I learned along the way was size is, absolutely. I'm a big boy. It's an advantage if you let it be an advantage. It's not going to stop the puck for you.
Right.
But if you can be, it's just the way it is. If you can be the same, if you have a 6'6" goalie that's the exact same capability as a 5'10" goalie, the 6'6" goalie has an advantage. Of course he does.
Yeah, square footage.
Right. And as long as they have the same capability. But you have to work and make sure you have the same capability, because you can't just be like, "Oh, I'm big, I'm going to stop the puck, I'm better." You have to make it your advantage. And if you are able to skate and move and, all of these things, then it becomes an advantage. If you just think that you're going to hang in there and be big, no. Especially now, the game's way too good. But if you can work on all the other stuff to make it an advantage, then it is. I mean, look at Vasilevsky. I mean, come on. It's not fair.
Yeah, he moves.
It's not fair.
Moves like a gymnast, and he's 6'4".
Okay. Yeah. I thought he was taller, but still, I mean, it's not fair. And there's a reason why he's done what he's done, doing what he's doing. Because he's a perfect example that size and that height becomes an advantage. Because, the guy can move better than anybody else.
What about for you? Like, what did you have to learn to make sure you were using it as an advantage? There's probably a lot of big young goalies listening to this right now. What piece of advice for, some 16, 17, 18-year-old who's 6'6", who's trying to, sort of learn how to manage his size right about now?
So, I mean, one thing for me, well, first of all, skating, you got to be able to skate. You got to keep up with your mobility and your footwork and your ability to move. And then also understanding that being a bigger guy, you don't have to play way out of your net. You got to find that sweet spot. You don't have to play on the goal line either,
Right.
but you don't have to play out. So having that size will allow you to get side to side quicker, because you don't necessarily need to be as far out in the crease to cover all the net. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're quicker side to side, but you got less space to cover going side to side, because you're able to play where you can play. So it's finding that sweet spot where you're comfortable being, and then again, you got to keep up. You can't just assume that because you're a big boy that you're going to be better at stopping pucks than everybody else. It's not how it works. Shooters are too good. But even talking about that, I think one thing with me that young goalies need to really understand and try to find, as I mentioned, that sweet spot. And that sweet spot is where you are in your crease. For some guys, it's heels at the top of the crease. For some guys, it's toes. Some guys are just inside the top of the crease. But whatever it is, when I've struggled, it's because I'm outside of that sweet spot. I'm trying to do something that instinctually is not comfortable for me. You can try to do it all you want. I've been pushed a lot of times. You're big. You gotta play further out. Play further out. But the problem is instinctually in your brain and your body, it's always going to come back to where you're comfortable. So the only thing for me, when I played too far out, the only thing that would happen is I was just drifting when the shot was coming. And that just gave me a whole bunch of extra movement, because in my brain wanted me to be where I was comfortable being. So if I came way out, and then the play was happening, my brain just said, no, come back. So I'd end up just drifting back.
Now you're moving.
And now I'm moving. And now I'm not doing what I want to be doing. And I found that a lot, that when I played too far out, you're always going to have that sweet spot that when you stop thinking about where you are in the crease, when the play is happening, your brain's always going to your instincts are always going to bring you back to that spot that you're comfortable. So you can try to play out, you can, in certain situations, but you got to find that. And for some guys, like I said, it's outside the crease. Some guys is heels on the crease, some guys is toes, some guys are inside the crease. But whatever it is, you got to find that spot that you're naturally comfortable being in, unless it's, costing you goals, which then you got to work through that.
Yeah, honest evaluation if it's not working right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the big things for you after a good start in Edmonton, you get traded. There was the year where you bounced around. The next year you signed in Arizona, but I remember, I seem to recall Sean Burke gave you a sort of rule of thumb on that in terms of that depth and that sweet spot in managing. Can you share that? And was that a big one for you at that time?
Absolutely. So he was big, like Berkey was big on being set for the shot. So, I remember him telling me, I don't care where you play in your crease, because everyone always thinks Berkey's like play deep in your crease. You gotta stand back. And he never told me where to play in my crease. All he said was, I want you to beat the pass on your feet and be set. So wherever you're comfortable doing that, and wherever that is, I want you to be able to beat the pass on your feet, push, stop, and set. So obviously, if the play is higher out, then I can be further out in my crease, because I have more time to get over on a lateral pass. I can push over and set. I have more time to cover more distance. As it gets closer, I might have to play a little further back. And so he never told me ever where I should play in my crease. He just said, I want you to be able to beat a pass on your feet. And you know what? Some guys that are better skaters might be able to play further out than me. If if a guy's a phenomenal skater, they can play, like you look at Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, he can play further out than me because he floats around on the ice. Pricer floats around on the ice. You know, they have the ability to play further out because they can beat that. But that's really all he said is just, I want you to be able to beat this pass on your feet and be set when the shot's coming and figure it out from there.
Sounds like a good rule of thumb. It sounds like one that, you know, you'd be able to, you know, at lower levels where you don't have video reviews on a daily basis with goalie coaches going over things, you'd be able to self-monitor a little bit. Like, it sounds to me like a really nice foundational mindset to kind of go into, I don't want to say at any age, but certainly for, you know, once you get up in the levels, it just makes a lot of sense. I love it.
It makes so much sense. And also, you can just, like, we hammered on this every single day. You know, it was very simple drills. The drills we did before practice, you know, it was like guys lined up on the face-off dots outside the blue line. 2 strides, pass across, shot. So you're just there. Push, stop, set, shot. Push, stop, set, shot. And then, you know, they'd start in the middle and it was pass over, push, stop, set, pass across. Like, it was just, we just hammered on it every single day on beating the pass on your feet and being set when the shot comes. And it's such an easy thing to just pound into your game. And I mean, it obviously helped me a ton.
In an era where, like, the game's never been faster laterally, like, you have to be able to go left, right. Mm-hmm. You have to be able, as you said, move and skate. Being set as well. Like, it's not just a matter of getting there. It's a matter of getting there and sort of being set and square as well. Which sounds like basic fundamental goaltending. And yet, as we came through sort of the pandemic and talked to a lot of goalie coaches that were sort of using that time to, you know, dig back into the position, I heard it more and more. Like, a lot of guys coming back to that. Like, it really is about those same simple principles about being there, being set, being square. And whether it's managing depth or finding new efficiencies of movement to get there, that is a foundation for all goalies, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't think, you know, when you get in the upper level of goaltenders, I don't think a lot of guys get beat in a game. You know, guys get beat in practice because, I mean, guys just shoot pucks so well that when they're untouched. But in a game, you don't see guys get beat when they're feeling good and they're on. If you watch, if their feet are set and they're where they want to be in the crease, you just don't see guys get beat that much. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of plays that happen that, you know, watching as a goalie, you're like, well, puck's going in the net, sorry. And maybe he'll make a ridiculous save, but a lot of the straight-on shots, I think, that you see go in have a lot to do with feet not being set.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense.
And I think a lot of that also has to do, like I was mentioning before, a lot of times when your feet aren't set, you might think they are, but like the smallest amount of drift, and that comes with that sweet spot like I was talking about, where if you're a little too far out or you're a little too deep, you're naturally going to, as you get ready for the shot, if you're too deep, you're naturally going to drift forward. And if you're too far out, as the shot comes, you're naturally going to drift backwards because that's your instinct where you know you are comfortable being. So if you find that spot where you can just be set, I don't think a lot of goalies in the league are getting beat. You don't see a ton of shots where a guy's like set solid and gets beat by a shot. Unless it's, you know, I mean, phenomenal shot, which also happens. But a lot of times when you see guys get beaten under the arm or they're waving their glove a little bit, it's because they're moving.
Yeah, and we see offenses and players trying to create dynamic, you know, lateral plays on the offensive end, but also players with deception too, trying to create that movement.
Exactly. And I mean, even the little deception can create that little drift or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, trust me, I'm not saying that it's easy to do because things happen fast out there. It's very difficult, and I'm certainly not a scholar at it, but I just think it's a huge part. I know personally, when I can have my feet set, that I was very good.
Now, okay, so not a scholar, but I hear you might have a bit of a photographic memory when it comes to goals. Is it true that if I were to pull up like a random date in a game and like the third goal in the third period or something like that, you'd be able to remember what happened? And don't worry, I haven't prepared any. I'm not going to test you.
It's getting a little foggier as I get older, but I could probably tell you some of the goals that went in that 7-3 game in Vancouver against the Giants, but yeah, it's kind of the goalie's curse. I don't know. I mean, we could probably run through most of last year. Yeah, I could probably give it to you a little breakdown. But yeah, it's a curse.
It's so a gift and a curse. But how do you is it in part because you're reviewing it just in your head, Devan, or actually because all the film work you do? Like, where does video work?
No, it's just in your head, I think. I mean, personally, it's. I mean, obviously you go over film, but growing up and again, I mean, things change over time, but I always just felt like growing up, like there was something more I could have done on a goal. Give or take you obviously get the weird goals that like there's no chance, but I always in my head thinking back on goals, I always wondered I probably could have done something different.
So in some ways you were doing your own video review long before you got to the stage where you had somebody doing it with you.
Yeah. So even if it wasn't fair, like, again, if it was a goal that's realistically going to go in no matter what, I was always like, wow, what if I did this? What if I did this? And so you always just run it back in your head, and yeah, it just kind of burned in my brain. Like, I don't know, like I said, it's a gift and a curse. It's a little foggier now as I get older, but I could run you back.
Well, listen, I might take you up on that one of these days, but we've been at it over an hour, right. And I know there's other questions I want to ask. I mean, you've got we've had these conversations in the past, never with the tape recorder running, but things like how to read a game, and you've done some pro reads with us, but also I know your thoughts on the instinctual reading of a game versus, pre-planned, I do this when the puck gets here stuff. There's a whole bunch of things we could get into. Let's save it for part B. And part B we can do after this season is over. And let's hope that, when it ends, it's with an opportunity for you to play again. Because I know as much as you're content right now, I can tell there's still that itch to play, and I know you're ready to play. So we'll leave it there for now. But I promise to get back to you for more, and maybe one of these days we'll put a test to all those goals, or at least a few, and run through a few clips.
Sounds good.
All right, Doobie, all the best, man. Enjoy the time with the family, and like I said, hopefully you'll get a ton of it, and then there'll be a perfect opportunity at the perfect time that comes up.
I hope so, man. Thank you. Always fun to chat.
That story. Can I just go back to being on the bus and chatting away and talking, and I know Dean Evison, and just that voice is scary when it bellows back. I got nervous and kind of shrunk down when Dubnyk told that story.
It's there was a naivety for him going into junior, like a real no expectations, which I guess could be a positive in some regards, but I guess in post-game bus conversations, there might be some etiquette that he needed to learn in a hurry there. So there were so many good. The ECA, are you kidding me? I just wanted to shoot. I just wanted to tell my buddies that I'd shot on you. Like, oh, that's classic. I love it.
The line brawl. Get out there. He's just sitting there taking it all in.
Didn't realize that meant he was in the game. I love that one too.
A whole bunch of fun. What's happening? What do we got going on over at In Goal Mag? Tell us, for premium members, I mean, there's a treasure trove of resources.
Yeah, if you go back, I mean, I remember when we started this out, guys, and we got really excited to be able to tell people there's 10 pro reads up now. You might want to go and subscribe. We've got 4 different gear stories. Go become a member. Now we've got we're coming up pretty soon here, guys, to 2 years worth of content. So you become a member of In Goal Premium today, and there's close to 2 years worth of pro reads there, a new one every week. We know it's the one that people come to the most. We know that pro goaltenders and coaches even are using it as a resource. The opportunity to sit down with NHL goaltenders and see them walk their way through saves, including this week's guest, Devan Dubnyk, who had a fantastic one with Woody. I think
what do we do?
pro read was almost as
minutes?
long as... What's that?
What do we do? 15 minutes on one power play sequence?
Well, I was going to say it's almost as long as one of the two interviews that you did with him. So, I mean, and as you referenced in that interview, like right back to Carey Price as well as the very first one. So, you know, the amount of stuff that's there now, and then you've got all the pro drills, including the most recent one with Ian Clark working with Thatcher Demko. There's just so much there, guys. It's just an incredible resource. We're obviously really proud of all the work that's gone into it over the last couple of years. And whether you're, you know, a young goaltender looking to learn, or a beer leaguer, or just really a fan of the position, it's a great opportunity to check out the content there today, Woody.
Yeah, and lots more coming. I know it's been a little thin on the drills. They've been once every couple of weeks. They're going to be increasing now here as we get pro hockey back in Vancouver. The Canucks started the season with 2 weeks on the road, but they're back this week, so a chance to catch up with a bunch of guys. And also the American Hockey League is back here in Abbotsford, suburb of Vancouver. I've got the Henderson Silver Knights, Freddie Brathwaite, Logan Thompson, who we've had, Dylan Ferguson, who we've had on the podcast. They're all here this weekend. Chance to watch them do drills, film them do drills, and talk to them about those drills and some of the tips and keys that we're going to share with you. So just, you know, excited. It was a long off season. Excited to kick back in and start cranking out that content on a weekly basis. Fresh stuff with the guys coming into town, starting with the Henderson Silver Knights. And the next week, I think we've got Minnesota in town with Cam Talbot. Carter Hart's in town for a day with the Philadelphia Flyers. Like, so much exciting stuff coming. And speaking of content, new subscriber Nico Dawes, last week's guest on the In Goal Radio podcast. How about that bump? Day after we do the interview, first American Hockey League start, first American Hockey League W. And as we sit down to record this interview today, a call up to the National Hockey League with Mackenzie Blackwood still out and Jonathan Bernier nursing a day-to-day injury. Nico Dawes is going to be on a National Hockey League bench 1 week after recording with us.
Wow. Hey, you're listening to this? I encourage you, take a second and look around the World Wide Web, or check out social media and just find out who has access to National Hockey League goaltenders, American Hockey League goaltenders, who are walking you through tape or telling you their stories about their experiences or suggestions. Take a look at how many people are doing that. And nobody does it like In Goal Mag and In Goal Radio, the podcast. And you'll keep coming back here. So let us know what you think, who you want to hear from, and maybe questions, comments about the pro reads or the interviews or the gear segments. Maybe you see something that you haven't been able to find, and send us a gear segment question, and Woody can track it down with Cam over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey. Wouldn't it be nice to give Cam an assignment?
Yes. Can we come up with one?
Yes, I will work on it right now.
I mean, beyond putting the gloves back on the wall after I've been there.
Which is like probably 30% of his workload. Great job with Doobie. That was so much fun. Just listening to his tales, but also the priorities that he has in his life and the journey. More than 500 National Hockey League starts.
Yeah, it's been like I said, it's been a good career. Hopefully it's not the end of the career. Hopefully there's another opportunity for him, as much as you don't wish ill on anyone else. If there is an injury, hopefully teams take a look. Because like we said, I think he's ready, eager, and you take a look at San Jose and Colorado. You talk to those teams about the impact he had in the room as well. Just, as a teammate, you will hear nothing but good things. So, all the best to Doobie. Thanks for taking the time, and hopefully we see him at a National Hockey League rink here in the near future.
Hutch, you have a good week, okay, pal?
Well, thank you, Darren. You have a good week as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's good to connect with you in between Woody's soliloquies. I appreciate spending some time with you.
I feel lucky just to hang out and listen to Woody.
please correspond with us. No question is too small or too insignificant. We love to hear from all of our listeners and all of the readers and all the subscribers over at In Goal Premium. We'll chat with you next week on In Goal Radio, the podcast.